The Mexico and the US border. What comes up when you hear those words? For some, it's insignificant. They have no opinion or feeling towards it because the issues pertaining to the border don't really affect them. Or so they think. For others, their opinions mirror what news channels have to say, regardless of if it's positive or negative, conservative or liberal. And for the rest, the Mexico and the US borders serve as a more emotionally charged subject. Whether it be because of a personal connection that someone they know has to the border, or they themselves are the ones with the connection. Regardless, what goes on at the border and the treatment and policies remain fuzzy to mostly everyone except those who deal with it firsthand on the daily. Now this can include migrants, ICE, Border Patrol, those volunteering to assist migrants, and the communities along the border that find themselves stuck between policies and injustices that they may or may not agree with. But this issue is way too important to remain compliant about not getting the facts straight. And here at Queens, we decided not to settle for this fuzziness. We decided to look a little deeper, follow more closely, and truly get to not only see, but understand what is occurring now at the border. So together, 13 of us set off on this faith-based journey to see the truth. And boy, did we see it. Our trip was based in El Paso, Texas, with the hope of being able to immerse ourselves along this border city. Our plans initially included to also immerse into the neighboring city on the Mexico side, Ciudad Juarez. And although we weren't able to quite do that, El Paso provided more than enough opportunities to learn, to feel, and to connect with dozens of different people, obstacles, and opportunities. We experienced a lot of pain, both within ourselves and through others. Our visit to the actual border was surreal, and as we talked to the young kids from the Mexico side of the border, many of us saw firsthand the struggle that the people right on our backyard are facing with no help from us. We saw the separation and the clear dynamic the US put up of it being an us versus them, a dynamic that was continuously present throughout the rest of our time in El Paso. We watched as migrants, women, men, and children gave themselves up to Border Patrol in hopes they may be able to stay. We watched from a couple of yards away in agony, knowing that many of them, due to policies, won't get that chance. We learned about the devastating effect that NAFTA had on the workers along the border on both the Mexico and US side. And we learned about the continuous fight against gentrification in El Paso, just so that the people there can keep their culture alive and to remain true to the community that exists and strives off of remaining faithful to their roots. And their stories reflecting the very real issue that gentrification has on so many other communities along the border. We cried with migrants as we heard their stories of their journeys to the border, the abuse they experienced, the hurt that they endured, and the loss of loved ones and of hope that they will never get back. We cried with migrants as we heard their stories of their journey at the border itself, their experiences with ICE, with Border Patrol, and with the abuse both mentally and physically that they will have to carry with them for the rest of their lives. We cried as we attended a mass at the ICE detention center. On this day, it was Mother's Day for a lot of the migrant women there. We cried as we saw the hurt in their faces of having to be away from their family and kids on Mother's Day. We cried as we witnessed a migrant mother collapse into her pain, only to be violently and carelessly taken care of, if you could even call it that, by ICE officers. We cried as we visited a museum full of art made by children at ICE detention centers. These pieces of art filled with both pain and hope of what can be and of what is, and of knowing that if only these children were given the opportunity to really grow and really strive, the impact that they can make on the world, we will never know, because they are limited to these detention centers. We talked with Border Patrol and got to hear about what they really do, or better yet, don't do to help and assist migrants. We learned about the immigration policies established by the US. We experienced a lot of pain. We also experienced a lot of hope. While learning about the damage of NAFTA and the gentrification going on in El Paso, we also learned about the amazing and strong women who are doing everything to unite the community, as well as their efforts to keep their culture alive, a culture that they are so proud to have. We volunteered at Casa del Refugiado, where we connected with migrants on a deep and personal level, one that goes beyond language barriers, one that is rooted in loving one another regardless of where they come from. And here we were able to do our part in making a difference in their journey, a positive difference. And while attending Mass at the ICE Detention Center, we watched as migrants showed their undying faith for God. And it was beautiful. Even through what they have been through and still are going through, their faith was still so strong. We hiked Mount Cristo Rey, where we not only got to see amazing views of El Paso and Mexico, but we also got to walk through the stories of our God. And most importantly, we learned about the beautiful and loving community in El Paso. We learned about the people who are so selflessly doing their part in helping the devastating situation that is currently going on along our border. We learned about organizations such as the Hope Institute, and about individuals such as Ingrid Gonzalez, who has dedicated much of her life to helping those in need, both along the border and in Guatemala. We learned about CDR and Terry, who every single day make sure that migrants that come to CDR are fed, clothed, cared for, and properly settled where they need to be. We learned about Brother Todd and Father Raphael, who, with the help of their faith, help others understand the issues going on along the border and to understand that they can help. And those were only a few. There are so many people that we encountered that have just been so loving and so caring and are continuing to do their part to make sure that something is done and changed. And as much pain that we felt, these people have given us hope. We all left El Paso different people. And it's a combination of both the newfound knowledge that we gained in El Paso and the experiences that we lived through that have shaped the people that we are now. And it's all thanks to this trip.